A number of European countries are considering sending jet fighters to Ukraine, Politico reports. The publication, referring to military officials and diplomats, notes that after the decision on tanks for Ukraine was made, they began to discuss the issue of supplying fighter jets.
The debate will likely prove even more contentious than the row over supplying tanks. In Europe, multiple officials and diplomats said their governments no longer consider the idea a non-starter, but that fears of escalation remain high. Cristina Gallardo, journalist, in an article for Politico.
The United States does not rule out the supply of fighter jets to Ukraine, said U.S. Presidential Advisor on Security John Feiner, Deutsche Welle reports. The Pentagon also admits the possible transfer of American F-16 fighters to Ukraine in the future.
We've certainly, we're not going to take anything off the table here. We are given air defense capability systems and, we're training the Ukrainians on the Patriot right now. We've seen them make incredible use of some of the air capabilities that not just we have given, but other countries and other partners. Sabrina Singh, U.S. Department of Defense spokesperson at the briefing.
Singh noted that she would not comment on any aid packages until U.S. President Joe Biden and Pentagon Chief Lloyd Austin officially announced this. On January 20th, the Netherlands said they were ready to consider supplying Ukraine with F-16 jets if they received a request, and Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki called on NATO countries to increase military support for Kyiv, stressing that his country was ready to support the supply of fighter jets to Ukraine.
If a decision to supply them with combat aircraft is being discussed, Poland will vote for, but, of course, it can only be a decision made by the whole of NATO. Mateusz Morawiecki, Prime Minister of Poland, in an interview with LSI.
German Chancellor Olaf Scholz is of the opposite opinion. Speaking in the Bundestag on January 25th, he ruled out the supply of German combat aircraft to Ukraine. Nevertheless, the allies are actively discussing the possibility of transferring aviation to Ukraine, and it is possible that in the future Western aircraft will become part of a comprehensive assistance package.
I think with aviation the question is not categorically no, the question is in bargaining. That is, someone will be able to give auctions in return, someone is ready to give their MiG jets in exchange for F-16. Slovakia says, give us the F-16, we will give Ukraine our aviation. By the way, they already transferred their aviation to us at the beginning of the war under the guise of spare parts. Really disassembled aircraft arrived in Ukraine. They were quickly assembled as key parts and they are now working at the front.
This is Kharkiv. In August 2022, night bombardment of the city with cluster munitions. Since the beginning of the invasion, the Russian Federation has been hitting the city with all types of its weapons, except for nuclear weapons, according to experts from the Bucharest Institute of Forensic Expertise. This included the use of prohibited cluster bombs, the use of which is a violation of the laws and customs of war.
Russia, for sure, of course, uses everything, both prohibited mines of various types and samples, and it uses variations of performance. They don't care about conventions.
Cluster munitions the Russian army actively uses for shelling other cities. For example, in Mykolaiv they removed a blank of ammunition from the Uragan multiple launch rocket system, which landed in a field.
The warhead at the bottom, will it detonate or not, or that topic is the transportation element of the rocket which scatters feathers that are in a circle.
More than 100 countries of the world have joined the Convention on the Prohibition and Non-Proliferation of Cluster Munitions, but countries such as the USA, China, Israel, Ukraine, Estonia and the Russian Federation are not among them. The Ukrainian Defense Forces requested Estonian cluster munitions, and according to the Minister of Defense of Estonia, they are ready to satisfy the request of Ukraine, but first it is necessary to obtain the consent of Germany, the ammunition-producing country.
Estonia has decided to provide Ukraine with 155 mm artillery rounds. I do not consider it necessary to talk about the details of agreements between the armed forces of Estonia and Ukraine. in particular about the number and range of ammunition. If we provide cluster ammunition to Ukraine, I do not see problems here now, as both sides use such ammunition in fighting on the territory of Ukraine. Hanno Pevkur, Minister of Defense of Estonia, in an interview with ERR.
The possibility of supply cluster munitions to Ukraine depends on German consent. The Bundeswehr has refused to produce and use them, which could hinder agreements between Tallinn and Kyiv. Reported by Roman Smoler, Natalia Belokudria, UATV News.